lesson that I created that uses this template. And what I'll do is I'll show you underneath, it's about writing and analyzing arguments. I was teaching a course on critical thinking for a while, and then I created this little mini lesson just to model the lesson plan template. So, here's my objectives. I want people to be able to identify an argument using something called Toulmin model. I want you to analyze the arguments using this model and to construct an argument. So this is my objectives for my little mini lesson. Then I would have a bridge-in about police brutality and racism on the police force. Then I ask about what do you need to make a strong or credible argument. So I'm checking for prior understanding, and I want people to to see what do they already know about this topic. And then I give the information about what is the Toulmin model, and these are the elements of it. Okay, and so this is what I'm doing underneath here is I want people to remember information. I'm giving the content, and now I'm going to be tying it a little bit together. So I give one example about the weather, and then I show how I use this in this example. Okay, so I'm using the Toulmin model to this sort of simple little meteorology, about meteorology, and I show how it, where are the grounds, where are the warrants, where's the modality, and so on, and people, sort of understand this. Then I say, okay, but what about if it's something really fraught with controversy? What about if it's to do with police brutality? So I go back to my original little bridge-in, that there have been a lot of police brutality, a lot of claims the police is racist, and so forth. Can it work with something that is as controversial as that? Because the other was a very neat and tidy little example, but here's a much more complex. So I have people think about, well, where is the claim, where's the warrant, where's the modality, where's this, where's that, and so they begin to look at that. So this is, again, it's part of my checking for understanding. I'm now checking for understanding, and I'm seeing if they got it, and then I give them the answer, and then they can compare to see whether or not they got it or not. And some will argue that, oh no, the claim is here, or the claim is there, or there's two claims, that sort of thing. So we have a discussion about that. But then what I really want them to look at, is this a good use? Is this a good argument? Is anything wrong that might be missing? Because what I'm really looking for is not, was it a good implementation, but was this a good use? But is there something more? So I want them to look at this and to discuss this. Then I've implanted a little something in there that was problematic. Okay, so I want them to think about, is there something in here that maybe wasn't noticed? So I'm trying to have them anticipate misconception, use questions to uncover what might have been ignored. Because if you go back to this, I implanted in there that in Toronto alone, there have been 8 whites and 18 blacks that have been shot at in recent years. So in there is a problem, of course, because there's, of course, many more whites than blacks in metropolitan Toronto. But people tend not to notice that. And all they focus on is, okay, well, here's the rebuttal. And they don't notice this. So they begin to think about this in here. Does 18 equal 18? And so we begin to think about what else is at stake in terms of the creation of a good argument, and about the politics of one's own location, and about how we look at the statistics and how we use statistics for our own ends, depending on what we believe, depending on our belief system and so on. So by implanting this in there and by sort of having people think about it, I'm trying to surface something that goes beyond my initial information that I'm giving to the students about Toulmin. Anyways, then I for homework, I have them strengthen the argument. I give the post-test criteria that I'm looking for, how I want the students to be able to look at the creation of a better argument that perhaps doesn't have the flaws that my own spurious quote had in the previous one. And then I have them think about the next class, for them to bring in some articles about racism to see if the Toulmin model fits, where do they find the arguments, are there warrants, and so on and so forth. And then I have my culmination, my closure. Ultimately, this was my bottom line in the lesson, that really what counts as evidence and what's perceived as a reasonable argument will be determined by the lens that we use. So ultimately, it's about this lens and how we use this lens in the creation of arguments was my, sort of raison d'etre for my lesson. But by doing it in this way, I'm thinking through all the parts. So really, it's about, that's what I want you to get out of today, perhaps, is being very purposeful in the way that you're thinking about your lesson and about what you want to accomplish and about, you wouldn't show this to the students, but it's at the beginning for yourself, having perhaps a PowerPoint presentation that includes for yourself what you're doing, being very explicit that here you're wanting them to, unearth the misconceptions. Here you want to give information. Here you're trying to access, what they already know. This is your bridging. This is your, pretest, whatever it is.